Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello, dear learners. Welcome again to the course of Fundamentals of Public Economics. By now, we have dealt a lot with the concepts of taxation. What is tax? What are the various types of taxes? And in an earlier lecture to this, we have also discussed as to what are the various approaches or the principles that should be taken care of while imposition of tax or while designing a tax system. Sometimes it might be benefit principle or ability to pay or the taxable capacity. However, the most common and accepted principle of taxation is ability to pay. And in ability to pay, income has been the most important criteria which lays the foundation for imposition of taxes. While the imposition of taxes, we have done with the imposition of direct taxes as well as indirect taxes. In today's lecture, we will be dealing with a few concerns regarding taxation. Let us start with the issues in taxation. Today's lecture would cover the impact and incidence of taxation, shifting of taxation and its theories, factors that affect this shifting and issues in tax reforms. Let us first start with impact of tax. Earlier also we have dealt with such a kind of concept and a very important concept. Impact basically is the first instance of tax, that is on the first place where the tax is imposed. If I am saying a direct tax, that means what? Who is the person who is covering the direct tax? So, impact of taxation is basically upon the person from whom the tax is collected at first place. So, basically the impact of taxation represents what? The impact of taxation represents the immediate money burden on the imposition of tax. That is, what is the first place where the tax is imposed? The impact of tax falls on the person from whom the tax is going to be collected. That means, as I told you, it is the first point of contact of tax with the assessee or the taxpayer. Thus, impact basically means it is on the person who pays the money in the first instance. So, that is impact. Another concept of taxation is incidence of taxation. Incidence of taxation means the final resting place of tax. Final resting place, what does this mean? Final resting place basically means who is at the last paying the tax. So, when the money burden of tax finally settles or come to rest. Therefore, I told you the final resting place of tax. In words of Dalton, if we see, what does he say? He say incidence of tax is upon the person who bears the direct money burden. That means who is paying the tax actually or finally. Especially many a times happens in case a tax is imposed on A individual, that means the impact of tax is on A individual. Howsoever, the tax is borne by or paid by a B individual. So, many a times used to happen in sales tax. That means when it was imposed on a company or a manufacturer or a producer, the company shop covers it from the buyers. So, the incidence lies on buyer. It can happen that if X is an individual on whom the impact of tax is done, then Y may be the individual who is paying the tax. That means the incidence of tax lies on Y. So, as Seligman said, the settlement of burden of the ultimate taxpayer is called incidence. You must remember, incidence is also of two kinds. As Mrs. Ursula Hicks said, Mrs. Ursula Hicks gave the concept and divided the incidence of tax into two categories. One was formal incidence and the other one was effective incidence. To be simple, what we say, formal incidence is the distribution of tax on the entire economy. That means distribution of total burden of tax among individuals, those who are belonging to different communities. These communities are on the basis of income. Different individuals make a community on basis of the financial position of them in the economy. So, what is the distribution of tax on these? Apart from that, distribution of tax as per senior citizen, as far as Indian income tax is concerned, and a non-senior citizens, the rates and the exemption limits differ. So, how this distribution of tax is done in the economy? She further states that formal incidence refers to the amount of tax that is collected by the government, that is in absolute terms, what is the total amount of tax that is being collected by the government. Howsoever, effective incidence is on the part of the taxpayer. Once the government has decided the tax structure, once the government has imposed the tax on the individual, now it is the part of the individual how individual is taking a tax, what is the reaction of individual towards that particular tax, because see, we have discussed earlier as well that tax imposition involves an element of sacrifice, especially in the case of direct taxes. The sacrifice element is quite felt by an SSC. So, effective incidence basically refers to taxpayers' reaction to the payment of taxes and its consequences, how the taxpayer is taking the taxes, what is the reaction of the taxpayer. Many a times when the taxpayer feels the burden is too high, then a problem of evasion do exist. So, the variation in distribution of consumer wants, income and allocation factor that is brought about by imposition and payment of tax measures the effective incidence. So, you must remember what I told you in the earlier classes, the impact and incidence. That means what? When tax is imposed on A and it is also paid by A, that means impact and incidence of the tax is on same individual. It is the case of direct taxes. However, if impact is on A individual, but incidence lies on B individual, that means first time the tax is imposed on A, but the tax is being paid by B finally, then it is called indirect tax. The example of direct tax holds income tax, corporate tax. However, an example of indirect tax holds customs duty, goods and services tax, excise duty. These are all the example of indirect taxes. So, how this is happening? Individual A has been imposed tax by the government, but the tax is being paid by individual B. This is being done by shifting. That means what? The tax has been shifted from individual A to individual B, from SSC A to SSC B, from taxpayer A to taxpayer B. So, this process of transferring of burden, what has individual A done? He has transferred his tax burden, his tax liability to the other person. So, this transferring of tax from one person to the other person is known as shifting of tax. Now, this shifting of tax can be both, it can be forward shifting or it can be backward shifting. See, if a company or a firm is there what happens? Government imposes tax on company or firm. Now, when the company or firm has been imposed tax by the government, one option to the company is it shifts the tax to whom? It shifts the tax to consumers in the form of, how it will shift the tax? It shifts the tax to the consumer in the form of rise in prices. What the company will do, what the firm will do, it will increase the price of the product or the commodity or the services which it is rendering to the consumer. So, when the firm shifts the tax burden to the consumer, generally in the form of rise in prices, it is called forward shifting. So, shifting is forward when, as customs or excise taxes, excise duties are imposed, the transfer is from earlier stage in the productive process as from, I told you, producer or importers to consumer. If the import customs duty is imposed and cost of importing becomes high, what will the producer or the importer do? It will transfer the taxes to the consumer in the form of increase in prices. Many a times we have earlier seen that imported goods become expensive. Why? Because first of all, it is coming from the other country, and second all, the producer or the importer had paid customs duty for the same. So, it is forward shifting. Howsoever, they can shift the tax backward as well. Now, how tax can be shifted backward? In the form of, maybe the firm might lower the wages of the labor. It can compromise in the price of raw materials being purchased. So, the price which constitute the vehicle for shifting will decrease. Shifting takes place through the process of purchase transactions. So, this becomes, when the purchase transactions price is lowered, this becomes a backward shifting. Generally, the tax is shifted forward, but howsoever, depending on various factors that would affect the shifting, it can be shifted backward as well. Now, let us come to know what are the various thought processes or theories given by different school of thoughts or group of economists of these shifting. Whether the tax will be shifted on the consumer or the buyer, it will be a forward shifting or a backward shifting. First and foremost, let us deal with the theory of physiocrats. A school of thought of economists. Physiocrats is a huge branch which describes various ideas of different economic concepts. One of the concepts that physiocrats describe basically during the middle of the 18th century, what physiocrats believed that was all the taxes should be given, or we can say that it is only the surplus on which the taxes should be imposed, as said by physiocrats. The surplus has the right, or the surplus is the part of your produce on which the taxes should be imposed. First thing. Second, what the physiocrats said? They said this surplus is only generated by agriculture. Physiocrats used to believe that agriculture is the only productive branch, rather service sector or manufacturer would be a sterile branch. They were so hard to service sector or manufacturer. So, they believed that agriculture is the only sector which produces surplus and the tax should be imposed on surplus. So, that they said in an economy wherever you will impose tax, by shifting process the tax would come and get concentrated on the agriculture itself. So, it is better to impose taxes on agriculture. So, they believe that there is an inherent tendency for all taxes to be concentrated on the classes which enjoy surplus, as I told you, and they thoroughly believe that agriculture is the only productive sector. According to them, industry, trade or service sector do not generate surplus, they are the sterile classes. So, they say those who could bear the taxes are the people who are appropriating surplus. So, whatever tax is there, it should be imposed on the agriculture. So that was the concentration theory. The diffusion theory was contrary to concentration theory. The diffusion theory was given by Kennard and Mansfield. It was exactly the opposite as the name suggests. Concentration means it will be shifted and comes to one place. Howsoever, diffusion says wherever you will be imposing taxes, in whichever sector the tax is imposed, by the process of shifting, reshifting, it will be diffused in the entire economy, because there is a whole chain of production that is working in the economy. From one person to the other person, the tax would be shifted. So they were a French economist, and they said that tax equate and diffuse themselves. So based on the assumption that there is perfect competition and complete mobility of economic agent, this is also one of the characteristics of perfect competition, that the entire sector is having a perfect knowledge, the seller is also having a perfect knowledge, the buyer is also having a perfect knowledge, there is no transportation cost involved, industry is the price maker and firm is the price taker. So all these are the characteristics of a perfect competition in economics. So basically the economic agents would be free to move, so the taxes would shift and reshift, they will equate themselves and get diffused in the entire economy. So according to this theory, individual from whom tax is collected will not bear the entire burden. The burden will be shifted to other class, and finally it will be diffused, as I told, in the economy. This diffusion theory favors more of indirect taxes. Same happens in indirect taxes. If the raw material is purchased at a higher prices, the cost of production increases, the wholesaler sells it to retailer at a higher price, then the retailer next sells to consumer at a higher price. So what happens? It is a whole chain. So the one increase in price of the raw material is being diffused till the consumer buys that commodity or a product. Then came the modern theory of demand and supply. That was the most appropriate theory, or we can say a theory that holds true in today's scenario as well. Basically, this theory says that whether the tax would be shifted forward or backward, or who will bear the tax burden, it will be buyer or the seller, would be dependent or decided by relative elasticities of demand and supply of that particular product. This theory not only decides who would bear the burden, this also tells us the extent of burden both. So, the extent to which the monetary burden of tax is shifted either forward or backward may be affected by the market nature. That means the elasticities of demand and supply of that particular product. So theory basically asserts that tax incidence can be shifted only through sale and purchase transaction, that is only through price. Price being an important engine of shifting of taxes. Let us see 2-3 different situations of the elasticity of demand and supply. Let us look into a situation where demand is perfectly elastic. On x-axis we have taken the quantity, and on y-axis we have taken the price. DD is the demand curve, that is perfectly elastic demand curve. A slightest change in the price would lead to more than proportionate change in the quantity demanded. Higher elasticity implies that. If the seller will change slightest of price, what would happen? The quantity demanded, the impact on quantity demanded would be huge. I think you must be very clear what does elasticity means. Elasticity is the responsiveness of quantity demanded. That means what is the percentage change in quantity demanded due to percentage change in price. Price and quantity have an inverse relationship as per law of demand. This must be very clear that demand is a function of price, other things being constant. So, if the curve is perfectly elastic, we have a perfectly elastic demand curve, what would happen? Suppose SS is the supply curve at point E. it is intersecting the demand curve DD, at which the quantity produced is OQ and the price is OP. Then what would happen? If there is imposition of tax on the seller and the demand is elastic, the seller would not be in a position to shift the demand in the form of price shifting. The seller would not able to shift the taxes, and the entire burden of taxes will fall on seller. So you can see what happens. There is no change in the price, only what the seller would do, it will reduce the quantity produced from OQ to OQ1. So if the demand is elastic, the burden is borne by the seller. Now, if the demand is perfectly inelastic, what will happen? If the demand is perfectly inelastic, both demand and SS is the supply curve, DD is the demand curve, x axis we have taken quantity and on y axis we have taken price. Now what happens? If the demand is inelastic, like in the case of necessary goods, whatever is the price, if a good is required, suppose if a medicine is required, even if it is of a higher price, we purchase medicine as per the prescriptions so that our health can be improved. So what happens if there is an imposition of price, OP price, this section is price, DP is the price that is being imposed earlier. Now if a tax is imposed, the seller can easily shift the tax imposed in the form of price rise. The price rises from OP to OP1 and the entire burden will fall on the buyer. Next, see the elasticity of supply. If the supply is perfectly elastic, what will happen? If the supply is perfectly elastic, then the entire burden will be borne by the buyer. So the seller can shift the supply, the seller can shift the taxes in the form of increase in prices. So the tax burden would fall on the buyer. It is exactly the reverse of elasticity of demand. Similarly, if the supply is inelastic, then the tax burden would fall on the seller, because what would happen? Shifting the burden of tax upon the buyer, the demand of the commodity will be reduced. So the demand curve would move from DD to D1, D1. So the seller will not shift the taxes in the form of prices on the buyer. Now, apart from demand and supply elasticities, there are few other factors that influence the shifting of taxes. We have dealt in detail the elasticity of demand and elasticity of supply. Now, let us see some other factors also that have an impact on shifting. First and foremost is the tax area. See, if a product is being sold in a local area, then shifting becomes difficult, because if the tax imposed is shifted in the form of price, what would happen? The consumers would go and buy that particular product from some other market. So if the tax area is a local area where the product is being sold, the shifting is not easy and it becomes difficult for the seller to shift the tax in the form of increase in price. As far as time period is concerned, see, when we talk of time period, in broadly we can divide time period in two parts. One is short run and the other one is long run. So in short run, the supply is not very elastic. It is not so elastic supply. So suddenly if the demand changes or the price changes, the seller cannot make changes in the supply curve. So it becomes difficult to shift the burden. But in the long run, the burden can be shifted. Now coverage of tax means what types of tax are there. If a tax is one tax that covers maximum people in the society, then it is easy to shift because that burden would be distributed among the taxpayers. Howsoever, if there is a specific tax on specific community, then it is difficult to shift. Then is your availability of substitutes. Availability of substitutes means if X product becomes expensive, people will shift on Y products. If I am using a particular product and it becomes expensive, the price increases, I might change my product and shift on some other thing if the taste and preferences are not constant. So, availability of substitutes is there, it is difficult to shift the taxes. Business conditions. See, when there is boom or a phase of recovery, the indicators show a positive trend. Employment is more, national income is increasing, poverty is less, per capita income is increasing. At that time, a rise in price is easily borne by the consumers. So, if there is a situation of boom or recovery, it is easy to shift the tax in the form of price increase. See, because what happens when the tax is shifting now, price is an engine to shift. Via change in price, the tax is shifted. So, price becomes an engine to shift. So, however, if there is recession, it is difficult to shift the tax. People don't easily bear the burden of tax. Nature of demand for the commodities. If the commodity is a necessity good, the tax can be shifted. If it is a Veblen good or a good that is a status symbol good, the tax can be shifted, people don't mind paying. Howsoever, in a monopolistic maybe competition where there are substitutes available, where there are many products available, FMCG whole industry, it becomes difficult to shift the taxes. And the government policy. What kind of government policy is being adopted? It is in the form of say monetary policy or fiscal policy. Government is adopting expansionary policy or contractionary policy would determine the shifting of tax. If the government is adopting expansionary policy, the money supply in the hands of people would increase. They are ready to increase or give more prices for a product. Howsoever, is if a contractionary policy is being applied by the government where the instruments or the tools contract the money supply or reduce the purchasing power of the individual, the tax cannot be shifted. So, apart from relative elasticities of demand and supply, these are few other things that determine whether the tax can be shifted or not. Now, when we were talking of shifting of taxes, we know what is tax, we know the type of taxes, we also know various theories or various factors that determine the shifting. That means impact is on one and incidence is on other. All these things point out to one thing, one particular aspect, that what should be or what are the various issues that are dealt by the government while planning for a tax system. See, many policy changes are there, products are available, various things are there. In such a dynamic scenario, what tax system should be decided by the government, so much so that it can have an optimum or it can have a minimum impact on the taxpayer. The tax evasion is not there, tax planning is there for the taxpayers, tax avoidance should be reduced. So, what all the government has done? See, in various years in the past, say with respect to India, if I talk of after 1991, that was the structural breakthrough the India has gone there. So, government has done various reforms in the tax structure, because there should be various reforms basically means the changes, the structural changes what the government has undertaken via is its policy measures, so that the tax revenue is enhanced, so that the effect of tax on the individual is not much, so that the people are not evading. So, let us quickly discuss what are the various issues that need to be considered or dealt with while the tax reforms, because see, shifting is also there, tax evasion is also there. So, various things that the government has undertaken. First and foremost is expansion in tax base and improvement in tax collection. We'll discuss it one by one. Threshold limit and rate of tax, taxation on fringe benefits, presumptive tax, banking cash, transaction tax, minimum alternative tax, tax expenditures, tax buoyancy, tax avoidance and evasion, and tax administration. So let us start one by one. Expansion of tax base and improving tax collection. Now what is tax base? See, broadening of tax base is very important. In what sense when we say broadening of tax base? That means government should try, or government has tried to make policy changes so that maximum people come under the tax net. First, the SSCs should be catered with, and secondly, the government has shifted from step system to slab system. Steps are what? And slab is like this. So what happens is, the base on which the tax is being imposed gets broadened. So the evasion chances are reduced. So broadening of tax base was necessary to ensure growth of revenue. See, government requires revenue. By now you must have understood, government requires income for various activities, various welfare activities that are being undertaken by the government. So broadening of tax base is very important so that the revenue growth can be achieved. Government should get revenue from the people. So with increasing voluntary compliance basically we are willingly paying the taxes, and we should willingly pay the taxes. It becomes important for the tax department to put in place an effective mechanism for collecting information from various sources, basically to identify a person. See, all the tax mechanism, all the administrative efficiency lies that those who are earning, those who come under the tax net should pay the taxes. So identify person who are liable to pay tax but have avoided payment so as to bring them into the tax net. Thereby the tax net broaden. Those who are eligible to pay taxes, those who are having an income that comes under the tax liabilities, those whose income is taxable should be under the tax structure. They are not able to evade. Bringing maximum people under tax structure basically means people are not able to evade the taxes. So widening basically ensures that the government revenue would definitely increase, because what happens, narrow base leads to higher tax rate structure and tax evasion is there and the equity is less. Earlier also I have told you, people under similar circumstances treated similarly, people under dissimilar circumstances treated dissimilarly. That goes with the principle of equity. Whether it is vertical equity, in the earlier lecture we have discussed it, or it is a horizontal equity. So the tax evasion should be less. The target of the government becomes this. For this, see how government knows that people are evading taxes or still a requirement is there for widening the base, because they find a huge gap between PAN is permanent account number, PAN allottees and those who have filed the tax returns. Still when we file the income tax return, ITRs, what happens is we have to give a PAN number. Still in banks, Aadhaar is there, but PAN is an important document. It is a financial document that needs to be submitted while heavy transactions are being done in the bank. So the number of PANs allocated and the people filing returns with that PAN, a huge gap is there. So tax collectors have also failed to raise as much as they should have raised from higher income sections, independent and self-employed persons. Because if specifically I talk of income tax, so income in Indian income tax is divided into 5 categories. See, it is salary, it is income from capital gains, it is income from house property, it is income from business and profession, and it is income from any other source. So even independent persons, self-employed persons, people are evading tax and not paying the taxes. So, government efficiency lies with the fact that maximum people are under the tax net. So, therefore, what government has done, it has promoted various strategies so that taxpayers' voluntary compliance basically should increase. Maximum taxpayers, they should be aware, and education of voluntary compliance becomes important. See, in the structure what we study from the childhood, we are never told, as moral science was there, it is also becomes our responsibility. Our income isn't taxable net, we should pay the tax. So, many a times tax evasion occurs. Okay, deliberate evasion is there, but many a times people are not aware. Education of voluntary compliance is less. It should be imbibed in the citizens that when we have a taxable income, we should pay the taxes. Easier norms for determination of income liability so that people can understand. See, if we understand a particular system, if we understand a particular norm, we don't run away from that norm. We can clearly identify, okay, this is the tax and this much amount we need to pay. An individual can easily calculate his tax. Okay, filing requires a help maybe. Howsoever, nowadays it has become much easier after digitalization, but as an individual, as an income earner who is having a taxable income, we should be in a position to calculate our tax. The structure should be so simple, so that the individual pays the taxes, reducing cost of compliance. Every tax involves a cost, expanding the net of TDS, tax deduction at source. Preparation and filing returns should be more facilitating. Nowadays, it is very easy. Online returns can be filed and online assessment bill is generated. It is more cost effective and it is an easier mode of payment. See, if the people understand it is an easier mode of payment, the people can easily pay the taxes. Second important thing was the threshold limit or the rate of taxes. Threshold limit is the exemption limit. To be simple, we can say threshold limit is what? It is the exemption limit. And government has always tried, see the impact of taxation, that means what we feel when the tax is imposed, especially with respect to direct tax and that too of income and corporate tax. Exemption limit serves as a incentive to us that all right, this much amount of income is not our taxable income. So, government has broadened the exemption limit, always enhanced the exemption limit. It has been endeavor of the government to keep the incidence of tax at relatively lower level for small income groups, so that small income groups are earning less. It has given exemption limit, so they do not feel the burden of tax. See, for you I have given an idea how in India the system has changed. The threshold limit or the exemption limit has generally increased. If I say in 1991 it was 22,000, which increased to 2,50,000. For senior it was 3 lakhs, and for very senior, that is 80 years and above, it was 5 lakh rupees. The marginal rate of taxation once in India was 50%, and after 97-98 it was brought to 30%. Marginal rate of taxation basically means the highest rate of taxation in that particular tax or category. As far as income tax is concerned, it is 30%. From 97-98, if you see the tax structure, the marginal rate of taxation in income tax has not changed. The slabs have changed, the exemption limit have changed, but the rate is 30%. Reason being, so that the sacrifice involved, the sacrifice felt by the individual is not too huge, so much so that their willingness to work, save and invest is gone. Slabs have been brought down, the highest rate to 3. This is the latest slab. You can see it has changed. Exemption limit now is what? Exemption limit of taxable income is now up to 4 lakhs. There is no tax that you need to give. Even and moderate slabs are there in the budget 25-26. 4 to 8 lakhs it is 5%, 8 to 12 it is 10, 12 to 16 it is 15, 16 to 20 it is 20, and above 20 it is 30 lakhs. So, still the marginal rate of taxation is 30 lakhs. The slabs are equally or they are even, and moderately the rate is being increased. With every 4 lakh a 5% increase in rate is there. However, the limit of 7 lakh per annum income is now raised to 12 lakh. If the income, taxable income of an individual is 12 lakhs per annum, you don't need to give tax. If your income is 13 lakhs per annum, then this system of taxation will be followed. So government has think that exemption limit has gradually increased. So entry tax rates in personal should be, a comment is just that it should be relatively low, as the government has done, so that it does not frighten the potential taxpayer. See, as we see the rate suddenly is high, we don't want to pay the taxes, it becomes a problem to us. Sharp increase in exemption limit, government has done this, and it has promotes the tendency to bifurcate business under different legal activities, so that compliance should be more. Another important concept was that government has to deal was the presumptive taxation. See, when the Industrial Policy Act came, it was good for small scale industries, but small industries were good, but what happened was that under this the government asked the businessmen or the small entrepreneurs or the firms to keep book of accounts. They have to maintain all the ledgers or the book of accounts, and that needs to be audited by a CA, because for companies the tax is imposed on profit. And what is profit? Profit is basically your income that you are earning minus the expenses that are held or expenditure that are held in the company for maintenance of company, for daily affairs of the company. So I can calculate what is my profit, but how would the government believe? So government said a certified CA should audit your books of account, so that what happens? Exact profit can be identified. But maintaining the book of accounts, keeping the book of accounts, what happened? It was tedious and cumbersome for the small business enterprises. Of hiring a CA, that is also a cost to the business, the maintenance, a person is needed for the maintenance, everything. There was a separate department that needs to maintain your book of accounts. So people were running from this. It was cumbersome for the small traders and businessmen. So what happened was, in 1993, that is the assessment year 94-95, what government did was, government introduced presumptive taxations. Now, what is presumptive taxation? In presumptive taxation, government said, whatever you are earning, 8% of your profit you have to pay the tax. It was decided. No need to get an audited account book, but 8% of your profits was taken as tax. So accounting records to determine and self-assessment of their tax liability was there in presumptive tax. Another issue before the government was banking cash transaction tax. In order to track basically unaccounted money and to trace its sources and destinations, what happened was, banking cash transaction was introduced through Finance Act 2005, and it was effective from 1st June 2005. The tax was levied at a rate of 0.1% on the value of taxable banking transactions. Basically, the shadow money, if a person is transacting for that and unaccounted money, that needs to be catered, that needs to be taxed. Now this 1% has been raised to 2% of excess transaction in a single day. So banking cash transaction was payable if the amount withdrawn was credited to any account with the bank, but it was only there for 4 years and was withdrawn on 1st April 2009. Another case was minimum alternative tax, MAT. Now see what happens. MAT was, when I am talking of MAT or I am talking of presumptive taxation, it is basically the tax what we called is as corporation tax. See, corporation tax is imposed on companies. Since company is a separate legal entity, corporate or corporation tax is imposed, separate legal entities in the eyes of law. So whatever earnings or whatever profit the company is generating, the company as an individual, as a legal entity, has to pay the taxes. So what the companies were doing, companies were showing their book profit different from the profit shown to the people. The corporation profit, the book profit that was being shown by the company on which the taxes were imposed, they were showing it as less, so much so that they used to declare themselves as zero tax companies. That means whatever we are earning, it is being spent. However, this was not the case. So, what government did was, because companies, it was clearly visible that the companies were earning much and they used to pay handsome dividend to the shareholders, but they brought themselves in the category of zero tax company so that the tax payment can be escaped. So what government did was, government said, okay, if you are doing such a case, we will be imposing a minimum amount of tax on you. That means a specific amount, that was around 8% of tax, was imposed under section 115J in the Finance Act 1987. It was imposed, and it was said that a company who is earning around 40 lakh rupees would pay this much amount of tax, and companies who are earning above 40 lakh of rupees would be treated differently. Now this 40 lakh limit has been increased to 2 crores. So company having a profit of 2 crores till the turnover is 2 crores have to pay a minimum alternative tax with a specific percentage of the book profit, and companies whose turnover is above 2 crores will be treated differently. So the strongest argument was based on the concept of horizontal equity. What does it stipulates? That people in similar circumstances should be treated similarly, and it would be difficult for the company to manipulate this. Another concept that came in front of government, that was the issue that needs to be catered, was tax expenditures. See, tax expenditures are what? Tax expenditures are basically incentives. The government provides us with various incentives so that the burden of tax on us, what we feel, becomes less, and it motivates us through various incentives so that we don't evade the taxes. We can see there are 3 concepts. One is tax planning, one is tax avoidance, and one is tax evasion. Now, how they differ from each other? Tax planning is by rule, by law, various schemes, various exemptions, various deductions provided by the government to individuals or corporate on their income so that they can make use, it is an optional, it is provided by the government, they can make use of all these things and all these incentives and reduce their tax liability. Tax avoidance is taking advantage of the loopholes in the tax system. It is legal, but a motive, illegitimate motive is there, and tax evasion is illegal and illegitimate. The motive is malified. We are not declaring our income and we are not giving the taxes. So, tax incentives are basically incentives made by the government so that the tax liability on the individual is reduced. Individual is motivated not to evade, and he actually does planning and reduces tax liabilities. So, this reduction in tax liability becomes the tax expenditure, because that amount of revenue is being lost by the government. Another concept is buoyancy of taxes. Basically, change in receipts do have an impact on GDP, gross domestic product. So, the relationship or the ratio of tax receipts changes to GDP is tax buoyancy. Such receipts basically result from 2 factors. One are the built-in flexibilities or automatic changes, what we say as elasticity, and the other one is discretionary changes. Automatic changes basically means that tax revenue increases maybe because of certain economic situation, boom is in the economy and people are earning more, they are paying more taxes and the taxes are contributing higher to GDP, are the automatic changes. And discretionary changes is on the part of the government, that government is changing the policy measures maybe the taxation policy measures, the tax structure is changed, and because of that the tax revenue has changed. Maybe structure is changed, expansion of tax base is there. So, the overall responsiveness of tax revenue to discretionary changes in tax schemes, which include automatic. So, elasticity includes automatic changes and buoyancy includes automatic and discretionary, both kind of changes, and that leads to change in tax revenue and its proportion in GDP. So, basically buoyancy is calculated as delta T by T, changes in tax, and divided by delta Y by Y, percentage changes in national income. All these can be done through tax administration. So, the tax administration evolved an internal dynamic to promote effective application of tax policy. Whatever changes we are doing through tax policy, whatever changes we are doing in the form of tax reforms would show an impact if administration is great. See, all the decisions would have a positive impact. As far as for direct and indirect tax, I would say for direct tax, Central Board of Direct Taxes CBDT is administering, and for indirect taxes, Central Board of Indirect Taxes administering various taxation policies, various reforms in the tax structure that needs to be implemented. So, along with increased revenue, what government need, there is need to search constant new sources of revenue as well, because revenue has to be raised. Not only the existing tax that is being imposed, new sources should also be explored, and it becomes the duty of the agencies, it becomes tax administration that we can go for these revenue. So, this calls for a professional cadre of administration. So, CBDT, Central Board of Indirect Taxes and Direct Taxes, are these professional cadres to administer taxes. So, tax administration must incorporate what? Genuine threat of penalty, but ensure due process, a computerized as many administrative process as possible, so that to minimize interface between taxpayers and tax officials, it should be there, and not remain aloof from tax policy, but assist in every way. So, nowadays you can see digitalization has made it, the cost reduction is there, easier for us, compliance is easy. So, all these things, what happens is, it is making various step by step the measures are undertaking, so that to some extent the tax evasion is reduced, so that tax planning is implemented properly, avoidance is also taken care of. So, design should be so, interface has reduced, so that the tax structure and the laws commensurate easily. It is simple, we should understand this also. So, the success depends on efficient tax administration. That means what? Minimizing areas of assessment and collection, pendency of appeal. If an appeal is done in the tax administration department, that appeal is dealt with and now it is being improved. Even the assessment time has reduced. Tax avoidance and evasion, I have told you, should be minimized. Taxpayers' compliance should be enhanced. However, still administrative needs to be worked with higher zeal. Still pendency of appeals are there, still areas of assessment are increasing, tax evasion is still existing. However, government is trying various methods in the form of PAN numbers, in the form of VDS 1-2, in the form of demonetization. These are time to time efforts of the government, so that the evasion can be reduced. So, these issues needs to be catered by the government. Government is continuously working on these and catering on these. So, this was all about taxation. I think we have covered many things in past few lectures about taxation. What is it all about? What are the issues with respect to India that the government has dealt with? These are few suggested readings that I will give you to learn more and understand the concept of taxation. So, thank you learners for today. We are meeting in the next lecture.